Hello and welcome to our Spotlight series on Ask The Latina. Today our Spotlight guest is Raquel Tamez, CEO of Society of Hispanic Engineers, a Hispanic professional and student nonprofit organization with 300 chapters nationwide. Thank you, Raquel, for being our guest. Really appreciate you being here, and I'd like to learn more about you and your being a Latina. Where does your Hispanic background come from?
Well, Terry, thank you for having me. And I'll start by saying that my parents are from Monterrey, Mexico. Mm-hmm. I was born and raised in Houston, Texas, and I am a very proud Latina.
Fantastic, that's wonderful. And your parents, they originate from Mexico, is that correct?
Yes, born and raised in Monterrey, and they immigrated to the United States over 60 years ago.
Wow.
And they built the house that they still live in. Mm-hmm. My parents are older. My dad is 93 and my mother's 87. Fantastic. And I'm very grateful to still have my parents in my life.
That's wonderful, that's wonderful. What inspired you when you were in high school and what was your journey like through college as far as the career you chose and how you had probably challenges and how did you overcome them?
Sure. So my parents made significant sacrifices to send me to good schools. Mm-hmm. I didn't grow up in the most affluent neighborhood. It's a tough neighborhood in Northside, Houston, Texas. But my parents did make sacrifices to send us to school, and I just had a desire to do well in school. Mm-hmm. And so in high school, I did go to a private Catholic school, St. Pius X High School, and I worked very hard, and I excelled there, and that's really what supported my efforts to go into university with mm-hmm. full ride scholarships for actually several schools. Fantastic. And I ended up attending the University of Texas at Austin.
Oh, that's great. That's really good. Did you have a mentor or a role model to help you with this transition between high school and college, and also from college to career?
Sure. So my father has been very supportive my entire life, and I believe a good reason for my success is my father, both my parents for sure, but my father has always made me feel invincible. Mm-hmm. And so I would say that my father is a mentor and a sponsor to this very day and has been my entire life. I had teachers all along the way who supported me and guided me. Mm-hmm. One in particular, Miss Ballum in high school, who helped me with my college applications and my personal statements for scholarships mm-hmm. and that sort of thing. Another program that was very supportive, and it wasn't just one individual, it was a program, and it was the Inroads program. Oh. So immediately after high school, through the Inroads program, I had an internship with Conoco, and I worked for Conoco for 3 summers while I attended the University of Texas. Wow. And so one of the things that when I look back, growing up on my youth and high school and college, other than my parents and organizations like Inroads, I couldn't identify one person and say, hey, that person was my mentor. Mm. I have mentors now mm-hmm. because I have learned in the last several years that mentors are critical. Mm-hmm. Mentors and sponsors. And so I do have a variety of mentors now, as well as a couple of sponsors, and there's a difference, mm-hmm. and we can talk about that if you want. Yeah. But I do have a variety of mentors, and oftentimes they do not look like me.
Right.
They might be a white male, they might be a black female. I do have Latinas who I call upon Latinos as well, but it's a variety of mentors.
And you probably get a different perspective from each one of them and values too that they provide you.
Absolutely. Right? We all have different experiences and from different backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds, educational backgrounds. And so that's all extremely valuable and important to bring that to bear and bring that to the table when looking at a situation, when discussing an issue.
Great. You received the Young Hispanic Corporate Achievement Award from HACER, which is the Hispanic Association of Corporate Responsibility. Tell us about that.
Sure. Well, it's an organization that's been around for several years now. It's a very successful organization. I'm actually good friends with the CEO, Sid Wilson, and I was good friends with the previous CEO, Carlos Horta. And it's a extremely reputable organization that looks at the advancement of Hispanics and the diversity and inclusion of Hispanics in corporate America. And so I was actually nominated for this recognition many years ago by the head of human resources at then ACS, Laura Villarreal. And so I was very fortunate to have Laura almost as a mentor when I was going into the technology sector as a lawyer. And she was very supportive throughout my time at ACS and even afterwards. And she was the one who nominated me for the recognition of HACER. And I'm very grateful to her for that because I've made wonderful connections, through HACER, at HACER, and thereafter. And I think with Laura, serving as a mentor and nominating me for that recognition, it was one Latina helping another Latina. And I think that's so important for us to do.
It is. Very much we need to either pass it forward as far as handing over the torch to the next Latina, especially our young Latinas, but also help mentor others that are probably not sure what steps to take and reach out to them as well. It's very
Absolutely.
important.
I think we need to do that more readily amongst Latinas, pull up and push up. I think it's important to do that.
Yes,
and we need
definitely.
to look to do that for one another.
Yes. Your background is in law. So your background being in law, how have the past CEOs for SHIP come from? Did they come from an engineering background? And how did the organization feel about having a lawyer now leading the engineering professional organization like SHIP?
Sure. Well, most recently, the former interim acting CEO was an engineer. But the two CEOs before that, and I think historically the CEOs of SHIP have not necessarily been engineers.
Wow. Okay.
Because at the end of the day, the CEO is responsible for the vision and the mission and the strategy, the business of SHIP.
Right.
And you don't necessarily have to be an engineer or a lawyer to do that. I think as long as you are passionate about the education and the empowerment of Hispanics and Hispanics in STEM in particular, then I think that person with experience and leadership can be an appropriate fit for the CEO role.
That's great. Yeah, you have an amazing background.
Thank you.
You were general counsel for a nonprofit before SHIP. And what nonprofit was that for?
Sure. The nonprofit was Source America, and they are a nonprofit, a national nonprofit, that actually has oversight of an additional 500 nonprofits. It reports into a federal government agency, and the program is called the U.S. Ability One program. It's a $3 billion federal procurement program.
Wow.
And what's really amazing is that the mission for this program is the creation of employment opportunities for persons with significant disabilities.
Oh, wow.
And so that's why I really gravitated towards that
That's
organization, because it has an amazing mission and vision to also empower with employment and career growth and career opportunities for persons with significant disabilities.
That's wonderful.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's really great. You've also been featured in Top Most Influential Lawyers by Leading Latinos magazine. Tell us about how you gained this recognition.
Sure. Well, I think part of it is that unfortunately, there aren't a significant number of Latina lawyers. When you look at other ethnic groups and you look at the statistics, the numbers for Latina lawyers are very low.
Yes.
Right? We need more Latina lawyers. We need more Latina executives. So I think that's part of it. And when I was bestowed with that recognition, with that award, I was serving as the Chief Legal Officer, General Counsel for my previous nonprofit that we just talked about. And I think that was part of the consideration, and really that I was responsible for several areas, contracts, compliance, ethics, internal audit, enterprise risk management, many aspects of a business, and did that with a team of 40. So I think that those were considerations for the award.
That's great. That's wonderful. Yeah, and in 2017, you were named Best of the Board by magazine Hispanic Executive. So you really have shown a lot of, let's say, you've made so many advancements, and really, I think probably that you have contributed to our Hispanic community as well with these recognitions.
I was really excited about Best of the Board. Mainly because, well, one, it was my third time to be featured in Hispanic Executive, but Best of the Board is one of their most, I think, popular issues. And Ellen Ochoa, who is an astronaut, right?
Yes.
A Hispanic Latina astronaut, was on the cover. And so I just thought it was so appropriate with my next step as the CEO of SHIP to be in the same magazine as Ellen Ochoa. But what I talk about in that magazine is having a personal board of directors. So companies have board of directors, but I talked about having a personal board of directors, and what does that mean, and what does that look like, and how do you go about having a personal board of directors?
And that's very important, and definitely your board of directors are really what really help you move forward as far as any organization, whether it's nonprofit or a business.
That's right. And the way I see it is that we're each the CEO of our own career. And just like a company needs a board of directors for guidance and vision and strategy, we each need that as well. And so having a small group, sort of an inner circle of trusted colleagues to help you navigate your career is critical.
Yeah, it is. Now, what is a typical day for you as a CEO of SHIP? Do you meet with the board members and travel to all these chapters?
Well, my day as the CEO of SHIP starts pretty early. I'm a morning person, and so I like to get up early and get started, ease into my morning, practice gratitude, do some stretches, do a little bit of yoga, turn on my essential oils diffuser, make my French press coffee, and then I go work out to the gym. And I'm looking at emails, responding to emails. I have meetings, calls throughout the day. I do talk to the board chair regularly. I would probably say once a week. I talk to other board members as well, depending on what we're working on. If it's board governance, I speak to one board member. If I'm talking about building out programs, I'm talking to a couple of other board members. But scheduling meetings to we now have a presence, SHIP now has a presence on the Hill, so we're scheduling meetings with congressmen, meeting with other leaders and executives of other nonprofits, like-minded nonprofits in engineering and STEM and Hispanic organizations. So it is a full day. I travel probably every other week.
Very busy.
Some of those visits are with the chapters, student chapters, professional chapters, and my intention is to go to every region and meet with as many members as possible. I think it's important for me to understand what's going on with our members so that I can come back to the team at the national office, which is right outside of LA, and work with them on making our programming and our service offerings more robust.
That's great. That's wonderful. Most of the nonprofit career development organizations like SHIP, they have, they have chapters that are driven by president and also have their own board of board members that help them. And it's more on a volunteer basis. Is that the same with SHIP?
Yes, it's essentially the same model. SHIP has almost 300 chapters across the U.S., And we're divided into regions, 7 regions. And yes, every chapter has a president and an elected board. It's the term is 1 year.
Oh, okay.
There are positions on the national board of directors that are elected. The majority of the board is nominated and appointed, but there are elected positions. So we pull from the regions and the student chapters, and there are 3 positions on the board for elected positions.
Are they normally president emeritus, or could be?
It could be anyone. There's no sort of specific standard trajectory for that. It certainly helps that the person has had that kind of experience,
Right.
but it's not a requirement.
Okay, that's really good. And how many years? Oh, well, you mentioned they serve only 1 year, right?
Yes.
And so, and what are some of the challenges? Because sometimes when a whole board changes, what are some of the challenges of retaining members if a new chapter comes in for the next year and may not be as productive as the past team? How do they deal with something like that?
Sure. I mean, I think that's succession planning and sort of transference of information and knowledge. And some of the officer positions, they move up within the actual board itself of the chapter. So you might serve as a coordinator 1 year and then become the president the next year, and so there's that continuity there. And SHIP National is looking at ways to better support its chapters with information and guidelines and templates and protocols and that sort of thing. But it's a very close, most of these chapters are very close knit, and so it's very familial. We refer to ourselves as familia, and so an officer can come and go, but they're still available and around and accessible to support.
Yeah, that's great. That's wonderful. And then as you're going with that, tell us about SHIP and its mission, and as CEO, where do you want to see this organization grow?
I think that SHIP has tremendous potential. When you look at the geopolitical factors, what's going on with immigration, education, the workforce, the labor force, the global economy, the demand for STEM jobs, the growth in STEM. I think that what SHIP is doing to support engineers and professionals in STEM throughout the entire pipeline, SHIP can be a catalyst, and it can be a part of the solution. And so I think that SHIP is an amazing organization with an even more amazing vision and mission to empower Hispanics and the Hispanic community. And there's work to be done to make our programs more robust and crystallize our value proposition to all of our members and all of our stakeholders, and really be a voice for Hispanics in STEM, and hence having more of a presence on the Hill to see what we can do to support certain legislation and policy, and to serve as a resource and an expert, to testify as necessary when information is required. And so that's what we're moving towards.
That's wonderful. The impact of STEM to build a career interest among young students is very important. I understand SHIP has this K-12 program. Can you take us through what that program is all about?
Sure. So it's our pre-college program, and there's 2 main components. And one of them is what happens at our annual convention, and it's our pre-college conference. And so we bring in students, usually students that are local to the area, so that's how we have a positive impact on the community where we're having our convention. And we bring in students, there's an experience at one of the local universities, so we start to expose them to the local university, and there's activities there, there are hands-on activities, STEM-related activities. We also have different types of challenges around STEM and design and engineering. So we have fun with the kids as well. We bring in speakers so that they can see that there are Hispanics, that look like them,
Right,
that are successful in their
right.
careers.
Yep.
So that's an amazing opportunity and platform is at our annual convention. Another way that we really tap into young children early on in the pipeline is through our Noche de Ciencias, which is Science Night. And that's really, it's across the U.S. It's facilitated through our local chapters in collaboration with local community leaders and local community organizations, and it can be a 2-hour program or a 4-hour program, half a day, and we bring in families, parents and children, and we teach them about STEM and what STEM is all about. And there's hands-on activities, and it's really to address the two major barriers to Hispanics in STEM, and that's awareness and access. So what do I mean by awareness? In many instances, there are individuals, families, parents who aren't familiar with STEM, and what does that mean? What are the opportunities in STEM? What are the possibilities in STEM? So we bring that to light and we explain what those are. The other barrier to Hispanics in STEM is access. So, how do you get into university to earn a 4-year degree to pursue a profession, a career in STEM? And so we talk about the the university application process, financial aid, resources. So we address those two things, and it's important to start making our children, our Hispanic children, aware of the possibilities and the opportunities in STEM. And so Noche de Ciencias is one way to do that.
That's really a great program. And yeah, that's true. The parents need to understand that. And definitely starting them early like that really gets them interested in not only science but math, which is pretty critical for them to continue through college.
Absolutely. I think that as a country, we need to focus on math skills. And I think for the Hispanic community, one way I like to see it is oftentimes we're bilingual. And we could actually be multilingual if we learn the language of math and if we learn how to code. Those are languages.
True.
And so I would encourage Hispanic students to look at it in that way, in that math is a language and coding is a language, and now you can go from being bilingual to being multilingual if you can hone in on those skills.
Very valuable skills. Do you have any DACA members in any of your chapters, and how is SHIP providing them support throughout such a difficult time?
Sure. Well, we don't identify our members as DACA or non-DACA. Some members do self-identify in meetings or in interactions and that sort of thing. But we do understand that we have members that are DACA. And we are very sensitive to that. We are empathetic to that. And we have to remind members, though, that SHIP is not a political organization.
Right.
We do not have, we don't have lawyers on our staff. We don't have lobbyists on our staff. We are not a lobbying organization. And so we actually have to be very careful on how we go about providing support. We can't give legal advice or even take actions that look like we're lobbying. But we did send out a statement in support of DACA and our DACA students and members. And we recently submitted a letter. I submitted a letter to in support of a positive bipartisan bill to support DACA. Another thing that we did and will continue to do is at our annual convention we had a half-day workshop. It was 2 parts where I brought in the former general counsel of the EEOC as well as a family law law-based immigration lawyer and an employment law-based immigration lawyer to talk about the family law issues of DACA and the employment law issues of DACA, as well as the discrimination issues and what could be done.
Right.
And gave the participants of that workshop information and resources that they could use in order to help navigate what's going on with DACA.
That's great. That's definitely honing in your background as a lawyer.
Yes.
And getting those connections together. That's wonderful.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I called friends to help me with that.
Well, at Ask The Latina, we like to inspire Latinas to go into law and STEM careers. Our viewers are inspired when they see someone like you, and to be one or the other, whether lawyer or engineer. For law, what do you recommend a young Latina, or perhaps any Latina who's deciding to do a change career, what should they do if they want to enter into the field of law?
Go for it. You cannot go wrong with a law education or an education in the law. You will learn how to think analytically and critically, how to research, how to look for answers. You'll learn communication skills. You'll hone in on those communication skills. I think it's an invaluable education. It's 3 years of your life. It's not easy. It's challenging. You have to be fully dedicated to your studies in order to do well. But I would, if you're interested, if a young lady is interested, if a Latina is interested in law, I think it's something worth pursuing.
That's wonderful. And definitely, they are very detail-minded and very good writers, is what I've seen from lawyers, because you have so much documents you need to really read it through and be careful what you write and everything. That's what's always impressed me about lawyers.
Yes, it's, going through, a Juris Doctorate program through, law school, it does help you with your communication skills, both verbally and in writing, because you are reading and writing and communicating. And you learn how to synthesize information and then be able to effectively communicate that, whether it's in a document or in person and verbally.
Yeah, definitely. So now with SHIP and CEOship, what do you recommend young Latinas if they want to consider going into engineering, science, or technology as a career?
Same thing. Go for it. You can't go wrong with an education in one of the STEM disciplines. With everything that's going on and then this significant demand for professionals in STEM, and I believe that there will be this demand and an ever-growing demand for professionals in STEM for a long time. And so again, whether you go into engineering or science or technology or math or medicine, it's important, I think, for Latinas to be educated, to have and go for higher education. Our numbers could be better when compared to other ethnic groups when it comes to education and professional opportunities and career trajectories. So if a young Latina is interested at, in the most remote of ways, I think that I would encourage the young Latina to pursue her education and to find support.
That's very good. Well, thank you for being our guest, Raquel. I really enjoyed having you here. And
thank you.
You are an inspiration to Latinas.
Thank you very much. I very much enjoyed our conversation.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you for joining us, and we see you again in the next episode of Ask the Latina.